Welcome to episode number 1 of Adventuring for Mere Mortals. I'm Kyle.
And I'm Trevor.
And we'll be your co-host.
Or whatever this is.
All right. What do you think, Trev? Should we just jump in and outline kind of what our personal expectations are for this?
Yeah, I think that's a good place to start. Yeah, I like that. Why don't you start it, man?
Okay. This is kind of the brainchild of Trev and I's from the last backpacking trip. And we kind of noticed that, well, one thing that's lacking out there is there's a lot of adventure podcasts, but not necessarily podcasts about how you get out and do things. You know, how do you even get into it in the first place? So this is our stab at kind of tackling that. We're going to talk about how we got into the outdoors, how kind of we roped our friends into the outdoors, and, you know, the lessons that we learned from the School of Hard Knocks, buying the wrong equipment.
Yeah, that is always the case.
You know, logistical planning. Trev's the logistics guy. I'm the gear guy. So we've learned a lot from each other. So we're hoping to pass that on to you guys, right? So that you can learn from our mistakes and not spend as much money and time and everything that we did.
Yeah, for sure. And we just want more people to be able to go outside, because like go outside, at least for me, is this really therapeutic thing. It helps me relax. Like my wife can definitely tell if I haven't been on a trip in a while. I just get progressively grouchier and grouchier. It's like, maybe you should go outside, Trevor. I'm like, oh yeah, you're right. Okay, I'll go. So it's really therapeutic for me. And I think it's been proven by, I don't know, random studies on the internet, I guess, that being outside is good for you. So,
well, I think COVID proved it. You know, look at it, public land usage is an all-time high, you know, because of COVID. People got tired of getting stuck in their homes.
Oh yeah. And it was like the safe alternative rather than go out to the club or whatever when you're packed in with people. It's like, oh, go out and look at some trees, some mountains and stuff. So definitely good.
Yeah.
And yeah, another thing about this, it just gives us an excuse to interview cool people we know, because that's always fun, especially in COVID when we don't get to travel and see everybody. It's like, oh no, we'll just get on a Zoom meeting and ask them a bunch of questions about cool stuff they do.
You want to share what some of those are? I mean, the ones that jump to the front of my mind is like, you know, adventuring with kids.
Yeah, I mean that's I have 2 kids, and so my wife and we go out with our kids. I need to find another. I'm still working on hosts for that, but like we have one of our friends' wife is the manager of a scuba shop, so I think we're gonna have her on talk about scuba at some point. Got some friends that are really into road cycling and are getting into gravel, so we're gonna have them on and talk about that and how to get into that stuff. But we have way more subjects than we currently have guests for at the moment, but hopefully we'll build that out as we go.
Yeah, hopefully this is the first of many episodes. All right, Trev, what do you think? Should we get into our backgrounds?
Yeah, just a little bit about us. So before we ramble on too much longer. So yeah, I guess I'll go first. My name's Trevor. Grew up in Southern Illinois on a farm. So we had a decent amount, a couple hundred acres. So we could like go out, and we had some wooded areas and stuff. But how I really, really started getting to the outside, I'll blame my mom. So she went to school to be a park ranger. So it was like natural resource management, I believe was her degree. So when I was a kid, she always had me and my brother out and pointing out, oh, this is what this tree is. That's what that tree is. Oh, that's this animal. That's this animal. So I have really like strong memories from when I was a kid about that type of stuff. And it's kind of stuck with me. And when I was a kid, my family, we did a lot of tent camping, like a lot of going over to into Missouri, because they got a lot of cool rivers and a lot of inner tube floating down rivers during the summer. We'd go at least once or twice a year, every year, especially Labor Day weekend. Labor Day weekend was our thing. I think it was like, I went like 15 years in a row or something. Yeah, it was always a good time. But yeah, like went off to college at Rolla. Kyle was there as well. But yeah, went to school for geology, and what really clinched like the outdoors and more adventuring side of the outdoors, like pushing past like tent camping in like we're just right next to your car, was field camp. So we went out into the wilds of Arizona, New Mexico, and Utah, and literally they'd give us a map, a topographic map with basically nothing on it, and say, okay, you guys need to map this whole mountain, so just go. And so it was a lot of going off trail and just in gorgeous locations, and you just get to see new places, get to explore and think about it. It's like, well, who was the last person to walk where I am? And people that were in my mapping groups, I made them go to the top of the highest point on every map they gave us. So everyone but like Kyle always hated me, but it was the best way to map because you could see everything, and I don't regret it at all.
That's where we found out that we might be competitive with each other.
Yeah, a little bit. But yeah, other than that, like at that point I was just kind of just like venturing outdoors a little bit, but I started to take internships later on in an undergrad, and I kind of got to go to a bunch of different places. Like I was up in Minnesota one year, I was in Vermont the next year. So every weekend I would use that, and basically I had one of those old car atlases that I still have, but I might be the only person that's under 80 that has one now.
Delormes?
Yeah, for sure. I still have one. I have one in my car just in case the world ends and I need to figure out how to get to Atlanta or whatever. But but yeah, I would just like pick out a city and go, well, this seems to be about 4 hours away. There's like a state park there or a national park there. It's like, let's go check it out. And I would have my stuff in my truck, and right after work on Friday, I was gone for the weekend. I'd come back late Sunday night, go to work on Monday. And I'd do that every weekend in my internship. So I was just doing these wheel spokes out from whatever city I was in. So I got to see nice big chunks of the country and a lot of driving around. But yeah, then went off to grad school, did Northwestern up in Chicago, did field work up in Northern Ontario. I didn't do too much exploring there. I did a little bit of hiking sometimes when our equipment wasn't in, it got stuck in customs or stuff like that, but got to see gorgeous areas up there. But in grad school, I got really into running and obstacle course racing. Like I think one year I did 30 or 40 obstacle course races in one year. Me and one of my buddies from grad school, that was just our thing. We were running some race almost every weekend, and Chicago was a great place for running any races because it's a nice big population center.
Is this the friend that you did a marathon on a whim with, and he was feeling pretty good, like at mile 2 or 3 or something like that? And he's like, oh, I think I'm going to go. And he set a new personal record or something, or won the race.
Yeah, that's Elias. I love the dude, but man, I invited him to this race back in Southern Illinois, really small half marathon. And so I mean, we were in pretty good shape, but he's a ridiculous runner. Like he's qualified, him and his wife have both qualified for Boston multiple times now, but he's like 135 pounds sopping wet. And he's so fast. Like I brought him to this race and he won the race, set the course record. He still has the course record, and he bumped me off of the podium. I got 4th. So I was like, you jerk.
So these are the types of guests we're going to have, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I should have him on to talk. We should have him on to talk about like him and his wife love marathons. That's their thing, long distance running. So yeah, we should definitely have them on. But yeah, I mean, after grad school, I had kids pretty quickly after that. So I didn't have as much time to devote to running all the time. So I did more more through hiking type stuff. So I through hiked the River to River Trail in Southern Illinois. And most recently, Kyle and I and a couple of our friends did the Foothills Trail in South Carolina. So shorter little trails, but that's kind of all my life will allow at this point. I can't just go and leave for 4 months. My wife and my kids wouldn't be here when I got back. I don't know where they'd be. They wouldn't be here. They wouldn't be waiting on me for sure. So I have to do those more shorter adventures. So we try to do one good one every year at different locations. And with COVID, I got much more into biking. My neighborhood has it's about 1 mile loop. So I did a maddening number of loops, either running or biking around my neighborhood over COVID. But yeah, I mean, other big things about me. As far as outdoors goes, I love planning trips. I get really probably way too into the logistics of trips. I love making very detailed itineraries, super nerdy, but I don't know. It's not joy. I guess it's satisfaction. And a lot of the times we don't even really use my itineraries more than just as a guide. Like there's always something that screws up. It's like, well, we can't actually do that. So we're going to switch. But I don't know. It gives me comfort that we have at least some plan, and the joy of just putting together a plan, seeing a plan come together, I guess. But all right, I've rambled on long enough. How about you, Kyle?
So like Trev, grew up in Southern Illinois, but oddly enough, that's not where Trev and I met. We met in college in Missouri. Like Trev, got into it through family vacations, outings, things like that. Hunting, fishing. There's not really much else to do in Southern Illinois. So that was kind of how I discovered that I had an interest in the outdoors. And then we had a really active Boy Scout troop, Cub Scouts, Weebelows. That was kind of the thing to do. So we had the weekend campouts, and we had a very, very generous scoutmaster. And he donated a lot of time and money. And the highlight of every year was there was a week-long campout. It was the mystery campout weekend, and the destination would be revealed to the parents, but they would keep it secret from all the kids. So what would happen is all the kids would show up, and we would take a photo, like the obligatory, last photo of everyone seen together, load us up on a bus, and we would leave for, a whole week. And
perfect picture to send to the police when you're all missing.
Yeah, exactly. And looking back, we wouldn't be able to get away with that today, would we?
No, probably not. There'd be too many permission slips.
Oh, good. Yeah. But so we had a bus. We would head off, and we wouldn't know where we were going. We could end up in Missouri. The farthest we ever went was like Tennessee, North Carolina, because the bus couldn't go any further.
Man, that's a lot. That's a long drive for kids, especially 40 kids in a bus. Yeesh.
And then once we would get there, you'd have a base camp, but we got to go like to military parks, national parks, and we would go and do different things. So there was hiking, we would go rafting, just do all sorts of different things. And, that really solidified like this is important to me. And then as I went up through Scouts, I was exposed to more opportunities. Philmont Scout Ranch, it's in northern New Mexico. You can put a crew together. I was a crew leader, led I think it was a 10-day expedition out there for our crew, organized and did the planning and training. So like we backpacked through the Smoky Mountains on the Appalachian Trail as one of the training hikes. We went on local hikes. We explored local areas. And that's where I found out that, hey, I like planning these sorts of things. I like doing these things, now I just leave the planning up to Trevor. But, we did those sorts of things. And then, once we got to college, I had always been obsessed with caves, and Rolla had a caving club, and did a lot of caving. And that's where I kind of learned a lot of off trail, off the beaten path type stuff. Yeah. So.
But yeah, I guess we should talk about like where we're at actually right now. So we're not in the same room. I'm down just outside of New Orleans in Louisiana.
Yeah. And I'm coming to you live from the Gear Shack in Boise, Idaho, where I've been a resident for a whole, how many months since September? 3, 4?
Yep. You come in right when it starts getting cold and snowy.
It's amazing. Are we going to do a trip report type thing?
Yeah, I think we can do that. Like our last trips we've done.
because then that'll segue into how this whole thing started. But yeah, so my first trip with Trevor, I remember it was at field camp. It was
the river trip. We would go down to the Black River in Lesterville, Missouri for a weekend over the summer. I think we did that two times in high school, and we kept going through the first few years of college. And then I was coming from Rolla, which was only like, I don't know, hour maybe or so from Lesterville. So the folks that were back in Southern Illinois, they just would come and pick up the camping equipment from my parents' house and hook up to their truck and just drive it in. And then I was like, "Hey, Kyle, you want to go camping this weekend?" And Kyle's like, "Yeah." So yeah,
kind of like a dog. You make me sound like a dog.
Yeah, we'll come. But yeah, it's nice tent camping. We went floating. So that was the first time Kyle got introduced to all my friends from high school. But yeah, we had a good time. But the trips have gotten more adventurous since then, I think.
For sure.
So I think like Kyle and I, like we stayed in touch and stuff, but we didn't go on many trips like together after undergrad. Like grad school, we kind of did our own thing. But in the last few years, I've started organizing trips that are a little more adventurous for that most of the same group of friends. And I guess that was 2 years ago in November. There was kind of a lull in the COVID situation, so it seemed safe enough to travel. So, and I got really lucky, and I got a permit to do a rim to rim to rim in the Grand Canyon. And we had a guy back out at the last second, like it was like a week and a half before the trip or something. He's like, "I'm sorry, man, I can't do it." I'm like, "Okay." There's a guy from work that I work with down here in New Orleans. I was like, "Okay." I was like, "Who can?" Like, I have this permit. Who can come? And I was thinking, I was like, "Oh shit, Kyle lives in Phoenix. I'll call Kyle." So I called Kyle. Like, "Hey, Kyle, you want to go to the Grand Canyon? I got a permit. to go below the rim." He's like, "Yep, I'm there. When are we going?" Because yeah, Kyle understands how lucky I got to get the permit, because those are hard.
Well, that's our first backpacking trip. Was we went from North Rim down to Cottonwood, almost died because of heat exhaustion
that
and
was during
stroke.
field camp, man. Yeah, I remember that distinctly. We were down at Cottonwood camp, and they had a thermometer, like one of those big disc things with it looks like a clock, and in the shade it was 120 degrees on that thing. Like water was coming out of the tap at Cottonwood Canyon like too hot to drink. It was very sketchy. It was so hot. I don't know. And it was like right around the 1st of July or something.
Yeah, it was the 4th of July weekend.
Was it?
In there? Yeah. And then, that was, so this Trev referred to it as the redemption trip.
Yeah.
Like we have to go and dominate it this time because we were such a shit show the last.
and for future reference, November is a much better time to go down into the Grand Canyon than July.
It was perfect.
If you weren't already aware. But yeah, we had great weather. And
you want to talk about what the actual trip was, the objective was? I don't think we've hit on that yet. That it was the rim to rim to rim.
Oh yeah. I mentioned rim to rim very briefly, but yeah, we were going to start on the north rim or south rim. Sorry, because north rim was actually closed by the time we got there, so or more or less closed. I think you could drive through, but the campgrounds were all shut down and stuff. It hadn't snowed to shut down the road yet, but yeah, we started on the south rim, on the South Kaibab Trail, and hiked down to Cottonwood one day. Then we were leaving most of our stuff at Cottonwood. And then the next day, go up, tag the rim on the north side, then come back down, stay in Cottonwood again. And then the third day, hike all the way out. So, some of our friends were a little skeptical of their abilities, and I had to kind of goad people a bit through the year to like, hey, no, you need to be training, you need to get in shape to make this happen. And they did it, and I'm very proud of everybody. Everybody made it. No one got injured. And we were successful. And like while we were out in the area, I think we spent about a week out there ish. The majority of us. One guy came in at the last second, but yeah, we hit like Bryce, we hit Zion, we hit Coral Pink Sand Dunes State Park in just outside of Kanab. That place was awesome. But yeah, like that's how I like designing the trips. Like you have your main goal of a thing you want to do, and then if you have enough time, you hit things that are close by and try to really pack as much excitement in seeing all these new things all in one thing. Like it's probably a lot of driving and running around for some people, but I don't know, that's just how I like doing my trips. If I'm going to make a trip, it's going to be, you're just going to go for it. You're going to try to cram as much stuff in there as you can. Cause like I said earlier, like I don't get to do it really, but like once a year. So when I'm doing it, I want to see as much as I can. And also a huge national park nerd. And anytime I'm close to something like a national park, is like, okay, I got to go, got to get my stamp. I have a map on my wall with like push pins marking off all the national park sites. So but yeah, that was a good one.
Yeah.
Then yeah, what do
And
we do this year, Kyle?
and then you up the ante this year. I don't think that you mentioned that it was the rim to rim to rim was the first backpacking trip for what, 3 of our group?
Yeah, first like long thing. I think that a couple of them had done
Okay.
like shakeout things.
Okay.
But yeah, maybe not any overnight like in the backcountry type stuff. If you can call the North and South Kaibab Trail backcountry, which probably not. It's a nice groomed trail,
Yeah.
but for them it was backcountry.
The group was feeling good coming off the trip, and I don't even remember who mentioned the Foothills Trail.
It was me.
Was it you? Okay.
Like our trips really, it's like, hey, where does Trevor want to go this year? I'll plan it. Y'all can come.
Yeah, but I don't remember how we got serious about it. But somehow at some point in the year, we got serious and we were like, hey, we're going to do the Foothills Trail this year. Next level compared to the Grand Canyon.
Yeah. So yeah, for if you're not aware, Foothills Trail is about 77 miles and the rim to rim to rim was 40. And it has switchbacks. Yeah, the trail in the canyon has a lot of switchbacks because they have a lot of stock that they're like the mules and stuff that they're bringing down. So they have to have it at a certain grade. Foothills Trail is not like that for the most part. Yeah, it doesn't have very many switchbacks. It's a very more Appalachian Trail style trail where you just go straight up that hill or straight up that mountain, even though they're not big mountains, but you just go straight up. You don't take your time for the most part. So it was longer. It had, I think, comparable elevation change.
Not even
it
close.
Was it? What was
Not
it?
even close. It was, I bought the little map afterwards, and it says that it's 77.6 miles from end to end. And I think it was something like 43,000 feet of elevation change.
Yeah, Grand Canyon was only like in the 20s, I think.
Yeah.
Because you just go down and then back up.
Yeah. And so we did that. And what day was it? We did it in 4 days.
Yeah, 4 days. Also my fault. That might have been aggressive.
And so, yeah, when they were long days of walking, but it wasn't horrible looking back at it. Definitely type 2 fun.
Yeah. Not for me. I was all type 1. I was having a great time the whole time.
Okay.
But I have long legs. Not everybody was in the same situation I was.
Man, I love the fall weather. The trees, it was amazing. But I think it was the second night whenever I came walking into camp and you came walking up to me and you were like, where's Mud? Because at that time, or I guess it was the third day, we were down to 3.
Yeah. So two of our cohort, one of them has a bum knee, and she wanted to be safe. She didn't want to injure it. Like I think it was starting to hurt a little bit, and rather than like have to hike into the night every time and possibly injure it, her and her husband just said, "No, we're gonna call it," and that was fine. Like,
yeah,
she said, "Yep, you guys, yeah." Like I didn't want them to feel forced to keep going, and yep, I probably was too aggressive with my planning. We probably should have done it in 5 days, 4 nights. That would have been a little more comfortable. Because we had like 2 back-to-back 20-mile days with a lot of elevation change. I was in pretty good shape this year, and it was some of those hills were pretty rough. I was huffing and puffing.
Yeah. Relentless Ridge. It lives up to its name. That was
it was steep.
Yeah, we did that. So I get to camp and Trev's like, where's Mud? And I was like, oh, he's coming. He's, just back a little ways. And he goes, okay, I'm working on my 2-part apology right now. I was like, I don't think that's going to be good enough. But he was a trooper. Yeah. He stuck it out until the end. And then we hiked the final, 16 miles in the rain.
Yeah, it rained the entire time.
And then it stopped raining once we got towards the end of the trail. And
like a mile from the trailhead. It just stopped raining, and it was nice.
Yeah, it was beautiful. And then we emerged from the woods, and then Trevor and I both saw the sign, and we took off running for it.
Both for the record, backpacks. I won. Yeah, yes. Full backpacks were soaking wet, and it's like, I'm gonna beat you, and start running while this like random other people are there. Our friends were there to meet us, but there were this random other people like, what is wrong with these people? Like, they hiked the whole thing and now they're running to get to the sign first.
Yep. So that was a great trip, you know. And then after that's whenever Trev and I we stuck around and kind of brainstormed ideas. It was on that trip at one of the camps where we were sitting there and I don't know, we were just being ourselves, you know.
Yeah, we joke around a lot, and yeah, we
and the camp was like, can I join your group?
They're like, who are you guys? And we kind of explained, like, yeah, we do this every year. We go somewhere else, and they're like, oh, that's really cool. That's awesome. You guys do that. And we were leaving the next day, and I told everybody, I was like, yeah, I just have a group chat for our group, and then I just like say, hey, you guys want to go here? Of course, we talk a lot of smack, but one guy's like, I kind of want to be in your text group, but I don't need to go on any more trips. I go on enough trips. I'm like, you're missing out, man.
So we decided to bring everyone in through a podcast.
Yeah, so we'll do it this way. I mean, there's other reasons, like we want to get more people outside, but it's an excuse for us to talk about our adventures and talk to other people about their adventures. We're a fun time.
Should we wrap this up and kind of outline like what this isn't going to be? Like, I don't envision this being like tell you where to go on trips or places or things like that. It's really more about like reducing that learning curve whenever it comes to going out and trying something new in the outdoors.
Yeah, definitely. And like some of the people that are in our friend group that like Kyle said, it was their first real big trip when we went to the Grand Canyon. They were texting us stuff all the time. It's like, what about this piece of equipment? Do I need this? Do I need this? What do I need to pack? And just it's like, no, you don't. No. But like a lot of places, you can go on YouTube and try to search a bunch of videos and stuff to try to find stuff. But a lot of those type of channels on YouTube have a lot of different information about different things. And sometimes there's useful information in there, but you really got to delve through all the different types of information that each person has on their channel. But this, I think we can really focus in on maybe just individual activities, like, this episode let's talk about hiking, this one let's talk about scuba, this one let's talk about gravel biking, stuff like that. And you can just look and say, well, okay, that's what I want to learn about. Or if you like the sound of our voice, you can just listen to all of them. I won't be mad at you at all.
If we want to hear from you.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we'll get social media things set up so you can send like, oh no, I want to hear about this thing. So, and if it's on our list already, which it might be because it's kind of excessive, but yeah, then it can maybe bump up if we hear, oh yeah, I want to hear about this, I want to hear about that type of stuff. I don't imagine we're ever going to get big enough that we're going to have like big names like Jimmy Chin or somebody like that to come on and talk about his crazy adventures. So yeah, come back next month.
Do we have an idea on what we're going to talk about?
I think the first episode we're going to be talking about just the simplest thing, just getting outside. What are the best ways to get outside and just do literally anything outside? Like, it's a nice starting foundation, I think, and we'll kind of go from there and build on and on and on, hopefully.
All right. Until next time.
All right. See y'all. Bye.